fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got tracks and he's got rid of the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Six very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
This is your chance to get behind the wheel. The opportunity to race just like the pros. From the grassroots levels, where we all got our start, to the most popular race cars on the planet. From the fairgrounds of Nashville to the high banks of Daytona, to tracks that will never be forgotten. Realistic driving, intense competition, all from the comfort of your own home. This is the ultimate motorsports simulation. This is iRacing.
Back again for exciting racing action. If you enjoyed last week, you'll enjoy this one. Formula 3 around Bathurst, sanctioned by Motorsport Australia. Welcome to the mountain. It's Motorsport Australia's eSports Asia Pacific single-seater qualifying series. Formula 3's around Mount Panorama. Never thought I'd ever say it. Welcome along to Bathurst, New South Wales, Australia, at least virtually, of course. From Jonathan Simon and Reese Gardner, we are on commentary today for this event, the second and penultimate round. Reese, we had round one last week at the island. It was an action-packed one filled with strategy, incidents, great overtakes, and a close finish. What did we learn from that one?
We learnt that Slipstream is incredibly strong in the Dallara Formula 3. So many moves for the lead into turn one at Phillip Island. But we also learnt just how crucial that pit stop strategy is. We saw drivers taking their pit stop early for that little bit of fuel they needed to finish the race, and it ended up paying off for them. So I'm thinking there's going to be some more strategy variance at this round, but we'll have to wait and see, won't we?
Yeah, and talking to a lot of the drivers before the event here today is that some drivers have said, hey, look, we're all gonna pit late, and some others have said, no, we're considering pitting early. So again, Reese, different minds are coming up with different strategies. That's going to be very interesting come today.
Yeah, absolutely, especially considering just how long the straights are here at Mount Panorama and how difficult it is to pass across the top. As we go to the track map now, we check out this brilliant circuit. I mean, what can you say about this track that hasn't already been said, Jonathan? It's a legend of Australian motorsport. We all know it. We know every inch of it in the virtual world and the real world. It's just fantastic, isn't it? But as I said, passing very difficult across the top.
No, definitely. 6.2 kilometers, as you saw, an anti-clockwise layout. 23 of the most challenging, gut-wrenching corners in Australian motorsport folklore. You summed that up perfectly for us, Reese. 174 meters of elevation change around the mountain. The lowest point is Murray's final corner. I think a very underrated corner. I think it's one of the toughest on the circuit. As simple as it looks, the highest point is all the way at the top of the mountain at Sulman Park, just before McPhillamy. Over there. We're waiting for the drivers to head into practice. We're expecting lap times to be around that 1:57 range. Now again, pit lane speed limit, that's very important, Reese, because we are expecting a pit stop today, 50 kilometers an hour through the lane.
Yeah, and it's going to be difficult to enter the pit lane here at Mount Panorama if you're not familiar with this track, and if you're Australian, you certainly should be. Pit entry, you got to negotiate a couple of chicanes on the entry while slowing down for the limiter line. Here's the format. Starting fuel restricted to approximately 15 laps here, Johnny, and how many laps are we expecting the drivers to complete over this 40 minutes?
Yeah, so it's a 40-minute race, and so we are expecting around about 21 laps. So that gives about 10 minutes for the drivers at the end for a pure sprint to the flag. Now, what we saw last week was a lot of the field ended up pitting late. Will we see that later today? Now, what's interesting, Reese, as well, is the fast repair. That's something a lot of people aren't really used to in the world of motorsport. It's something we have the privilege of in the virtual world to have and to make use of. What's that fast repair all about?
Well, basically, you come into the pits, you make sure you have your fast repair selected, and once you pull into your box, bam, you instantly get a nice, fresh car with all damage repaired. It'd be nice if drivers and teams had that luxury. In real-world motorsports, sim racing, you don't have to deal with a repair bill or anything like that, and you can completely refresh your car. But one fast repair is available. That's important. The drivers are only restricted to doing that once, so they still have to take care around here.
And if they don't, they'll start near the back, they'll be in the pack, and they could be involved in a lot of incidents. Now, if you do qualify poorly, you only have around 250 meters on the run down from pole position or from your grid slot all the way down to hell at turn number 1. It's a magnificent circuit, is the mountain. Rounded out and laser scanned, and every nook and cranny of this place is as perfect as possible. And these are the drivers. This is the field that took place in round number 1. We've got a few drivers missing. We'll get to that a little later on. But it was all about Liam Reston Reese in round number 1. Took a valiant victory and an extra 2 bonus points because he did not score any incident points.
Exactly. You get 2 bonus points for no incidents during the race. If you're not familiar with iRacing, it gives you incident points for stuff like going off track, hitting other cars, hitting walls, that stuff like that. There's also a single point for fastest lap, and Benjamin Roberts got that last round. That's why he's equal on points for 4th with Mario Vartanian.
And let's explain the series just a little bit. So what this series is all about, it's a qualifier towards the international finals later on. So it's a 3-round series, and your top 4 will head to that international stage. Now, we've had 20 drivers here competing. How did these 20 drivers get selected? It was through a pre-qualifying phase. Griffin Gardner was the quickest pre-qualifier race, yet he finds himself last in the standings, and that's because he had a DNF from round number 1. His chances are not over, though. His hopes aren't dashed. He's got plenty of chances here today and next week as well over at Suzuka to score some points and score a top 4 finish in the title.
Yeah, exactly. Drivers like Josh Muggleton as well, who also showed magnificent pace. They could be bouncing back here at Bathurst and at Suzuka as well. And further to your point, Jonathan, the top 4 drivers in the standings at the end of this series will go to the Asia Pacific Formula Digital Finals, which have been organised by the Federation of Motorsport Clubs of India. As I said last round, just a fantastic initiative to bring together sim racers from across the Asia Pacific region.
You might have heard me before. Yes, we head to Suzuka next week in the flavour of Asia Pacific finals and racing in the best racing circuits in Australia and, of course, around the Asia Pacific region. Suzuka is absolutely beautiful. For those who want to take track with the points this evening, 25 points awarded for the winner, 1 point for 10th place. Think about it like your Formula 1 point system. It's the same thing they use in Formula 3, although we also have 1 point awarded to the driver with fastest lap. That's not limited to your top 10. That's throughout the entire field. And an extra 2 points, as we mentioned, if you score 0 incident points. Now, Reese, incident points, how can we explain that in iRacing?
Yes, well, as I briefly touched on before, iRacing tracks where your car is on the circuit. So if you dip a wheel into the grass, like there at McPhillamy Park, you get 1 incident point. If you make slight contact with a car or a wall, that's a 0 incident point awarded, but it will invalidate your lap if it happens in a qualifying session. And if you end up hitting someone so hard they get turned, that's 4 incident points. You also get 2 incident points if you lose control, and iRacing defines that as the car being turned more than 90 degrees to the direction of the track.
And this is that very circuit, the mountain. How beautiful is this? Here's the cutting. Looks so realistic, so good. Tom Katsunonis racing today, doing a very good job. Last week at Phillip Island. And that number 17, take track of that livery. We're also going to have a bit of this today, Reese. Some driver pictures to capture the emotions of sim racing. Something you don't get to see in the real world, considering in motorsport you have to really wear a helmet, I would say.
Yes, and some crazy sim racers decide to wear helmets and full race gear while they're sim racing just to up the immersion, but you won't be seeing that from any of these drivers. It's just full focus for guys like Tom Katsunonis as he makes his way down the S's and the run up the Forest Elbow. You can see the concentration that he's putting on, biting his lip on the way into the braking zones and gurning, as they'd say in the acting field, all kinds of expressions on these drivers' faces.
And great camera shots as well are provided by Jake Kennedy from SimSpeed. And it's a pleasure to have your company, whether you're joining us on the Motorsport Australia website or even via SimSpeed TV and our associated digital channels. Angus Cook also racing today from country Victoria. And the number 269. He's heading towards what is Griffin's Bend. You can just see every bump. Look at the car go to work here. Now, one of the talking points, Reese, has been this open wheeler. As we watch this cracking onboard shot through the cutting, this open wheeler runs so low to the ground, it actually struggles on the straights, let alone the corners, to handle those bumps. And you have to ride the straights a certain way not to avoid any lap time loss.
Yeah, indeed. Mount Panorama is a public road for most of the year, and an interesting story behind that. Well, Turn 2 is called Griffin's Bend. It's named after the mayor of Bathurst at the time the circuit was built. And I don't know how true this story is, but it's a great story, so who cares? Apparently, it was a case of they wanted to build a racetrack out here because there was motorsport in the Mount Panorama region since the early 20th century, but it was the middle of the Great Depression, so the state government couldn't contribute any money, but they decided to instead build a tourist drive. And as that tourist drive was being built, a couple of people said, hey, this would make a great racetrack. And you see the crown in the road here down Conrod Straight, and you see that Angus Cook is sticking to one side, doesn't want to run over the middle of the road because that's where the crown is. You'll get the floor scraping.
Yeah, definitely. That's a fascinating story, Reese. Keep that up for the evening. I like that one. 23 years of age, Angus Cook. Last week finished 9th, scored a top 10. He was only 18th coming into pre-qualifiers and doing a bit of a pit stop practice, which is oh so important. And that same challenging pit lane. And then on towards the limiter right here at that yellow cone. Locks up the rears just by a touch, but I think that was a quick pit entry. So good practice there for Angus Cook. You talk about the history of the mountain. Opened all the way back in 1938, as you said, Reese. And the funny part about it is we know this circuit has a lot of private residences. As we know, it's a street circuit. But iRacing have gone to the lengths of actually laser scanning the letterboxes at some of those houses as well. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it really is. The amount of detail around this virtual reproduction of Mount Panorama is insane. And I remember when the track was first released onto the iRacing service, you know, you had drivers in hosted practice sessions all through the week of release, just going over like, oh man, you know, I was here in real life, you know, I walked by this letterbox. And even when there's similar incidents happening in practice sessions to what happened in real life, two drivers come together at the cutting, oh, I just didn't Ambrose and Murphy, etc., etc.
Let's not talk about that one for a while because it could happen later today. We'll save it for a potential pile-up over at the cutting. We've seen one in the past, actually. Somebody showed me an old footage of an F3 race here where they all, right at this part of the circuit, so heading through to around about the Dipper, there was a huge track blockage right here involving around 15 open wheelers. That was chaotic. I really hope we don't see it today. If we do, I'll try not to giggle. So this virtual racing, you've got an incident there already here in practice. 2 minutes to go. And then we head into the qualifying session, as you said. Now, Griffin Gardner, in 2 minutes' time, is really going to have to nail qualifying and avoid any incidents. 0 points at a round one, Reese. That's catastrophic for his qualifying chances next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially considering that this series is only 3 rounds long, so any points you lose will absolutely not work in your favour towards the end. Griffin's going to have to hope for really bad luck for everyone in front of him if he wants to get a leg up in those championship standings.
And off through the final corner and off towards another lap. I think this will be his last run because by the time that session ticks to 0, we're going to automatically advance to qualifying, a 15-minute session. I spoke to a few drivers, and they said, well, good timing. Marcelo Rivera was one of them. I said, are you going to have any of your slipstream buddies out there? Sebastian Flock and Marcelo Rivera, they're sim racing teammates. I said, are you guys going to work together and try and get a tow for each other in qualifying? They said, we might. If we're down on lap time, we might consider it.
Yes, well, slipstream incredibly important here at Mount Panorama, and thinking back to Phillip Island a week ago, drivers in the lead-up were saying that the fixed setup, that's something we should also highlight, the drivers are running a fixed setup, so all of the settings are the same on all the cars. The only thing that can really adjust is brake bias on the fly, but the gear ratio, some drivers were having issues with it at Phillip Island. They were hitting the limiter in 6th gear on the way into turn 1. And Motorsport Australia has decided, well, we're going to extend the gear ratio for Bathurst so that we don't have cars just hitting a brick wall down Conrod and Mountain Straight. So we should see some epic slipstreaming fights here.
Wayne Burke, who had a great result in the Supercars E Series around the ovals, raced in Scops yesterday too, if I'm not mistaken, around Phillip Island, Viet Scops, one of the premier series of supercars on iRacing. Now into an open wheeler. It's very fascinating that this guy can jump from car to car, different places, and he works as an engineer for Team 18 over in the Supercars universe. That's real world. I'm not talking virtual there. As the session ends, Wayne Burke scored a good result for round 1, like we said last week, but it was only 6th place, so he's not quite in that top 4 yet. Time to look at your practice results. Benjamin Roberts led that session, 1 minute 56.7. Is that where we're going to see pole position? We are expecting a 56 for pole position. It all depends on track temperatures. It was around about 30 degrees for that session. We're expecting the same for qualifying in just a few minutes' time. Rivera, that's an important result. Griffin Gardner as well, only 1/10 off Benjamin Roberts. Those could be very scaled lap times. They could be skewed as well, because you don't know which ones, Reese, were influenced by the draft and which ones weren't. And good to see Race Control also setting some lap times there. A nil time for 19.
Of course. Kurt Stenberg just jumping into the session at the very end there. Stenny racing in round 1, unfortunately suffered a spin on his way. He'll be hoping for a better result here tonight. Also interesting to see that last round's winner, Liam Reston, only the 6th fastest time in practice. So he'll be hoping to pick up a slipstream here in qualifying as the drivers are now on their outlaps. And what a brilliant section this is. It's flat out in a Formula 3 car all the way across the top until you get to the S's.
Yeah, pretty much. So straight out of the cutting, right to, this is the first braking zone. How about that? That is absolutely insane. Literally full throttle, as Reece said. Your brick to the floor, foot slammed on that throttle pedal as we enter qualifying. So it's a 15-minute session, and it will be unlimited laps. As many as you want. This is the 74 of Benjamin Roberts. He'll be the first driver to set a lap time. Benjamin Roberts did well last week at the island. Some news for you as well. In the meantime, a few drivers missing tonight. Stephen Bull, he won't be racing. He's unwell. And Bo Albert pulled out just about an hour ago. He's got the flu, so he tried to race, but unfortunately he is out in the last moments and he's not going to be able to race. Tomcat Sedonis as well, who's up there in the standings. He also said he's a little bit crook, but he's going to push through it tonight. Here we go, Reece. First lap of the day, Benjamin Roberts.
Indeed, we wish those ill drivers to get well soon as Benjamin Roberts crosses the line to come up into Hell Corner. A very deceptive turn, this one, 90 degrees, but you can't pick the line through it very easily. Got to use as much of the curb as possible on the exit, and that will define your entire run down Mountain Straight. You go over the crest, once again in these F3 cars, you've got to stick to one side, driver spinning in the background. That's not a good start for whoever that was, but then you brake so late in an F3 car for Griffins, and the camber through this corner. You don't want to go side by side through there because there's a huge crown in the road, and then it's another case of getting on the brakes as late as you can for the cutting. This is a very difficult corner, this one. Walls on either side ready to snatch you away, and there's bumps in the road as well that can easily spin up your tires, but as we mentioned, Johnny, it's flat out from here on out.
Let's just have a listen to this full throttle section.
Just amazing.
Oh, and he plants the brake midway through. I don't like. That's absolutely insane. I think I've watched too many supercars races around here. Not expecting drivers to brake so late through there on the downhill run all the way to the dip up. That was insane. Through Skyline that fast is just unimaginable. That's the first time I've seen a car go so fast through there. Probably not since, remember Jenson Button drove the F1 McLaren around here. He drove it quite slowly as well. I reckon the F1 cars, Formula 3s are doing 1 minute 56s or 57s. Expect F1 cars to definitely be in the 40s. as Benjamin Roberts comes through the chase. Only one more braking zone to go. And I always say, Reese, Murray's, you get this corner wrong more than you do right. It's a downhill braking zone. It's very, very challenging. By the way, quick report, that was Mitch McLeod who spun out at the beginning of the last lap, but he's continued on, avoided any damage. 1 minute 57.5 for Benjamin Roberts. Right dead.
As the times come flowing in, Daniel Yeaman, 158.0. Liam Reston now into third place with Rob Bowden taking up the fourth spot. Josh Muggleton rounding out the top 5. Here's Mitch McLeod's teammate, Ashley Lear, in the number 10. What can he set? 1 minute 59.4. So, time's not as quick as we saw in practice, Jonathan. I think the slipstream will certainly start playing into that. Maybe the drivers need a little bit of extra time to warm up their tyres here.
Yeah, definitely. 57's not what we expect for pole position. Wayne Burke, who's pretty much... now, where is he? He's holding up a big train. You might not see anybody ahead of him. But right now, there's that train right behind. I can see on the track map. So, is that a detriment? That's what we're going to find out here. Benjamin Roberts, who didn't have a slipstream, set the quickest lap time on that run. Now, what I found interesting, Reese, as well, was that Mitch McLeod did not press the escape button, as you can do in the sim, to go back to the pits. So my belief is these drivers are going to run straight to the checkered flag without a pit stop. Maybe they might pit for fresh tyres, but they do not want to reset the fuel load. Every time you pull back in the pits, you reset to the 26.5 litres you're forced to start with.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we've gotten some news from our director, Jay Kennedy, that some drivers might come in after 3 laps for a fresh set of tyres. So it's looking like an out lap and 2 hot laps for the time being here, as the sun's a little bit low in the sky here at Mount Panorama. Wayne Burke leading the train in the slipstream. A couple of drivers picking up some very nice draft there down Conrod Straight, flat out on the way into the chase in a very heavy braking zone. And further to your point about Murray's Corner a bit earlier, Jonathan, it's just so hard to pick the line through here. Look at this onboard with Wayne Burke. The curve is so high at the apex, it's very easy to hit it if you get it wrong. 58.2 for Wayne Burke, and that will promote him up to 6th. Josh Muggleton, meanwhile, just pips Liam Reston to 3rd. 157.7 for him.
Josh Muggleton, haven't spoken about him much. He is very quick, Josh Muggle, and he was involved in an incident earlier on at Phillip Island, sets the 3rd fastest lap time so far. Kurt Stenberg from Perth, WA. Now, talking to Stenny, Reese, barely any experience in open wheelers, so again for him, P14's almost like a victory at this stage. Griffin Gardner sits in 2nd. Only 4 tenths behind Benjamin Roberts in 1st. How about this? This will be a great performance by Benjamin Roberts, who, as far as I can see, is pulled into the pit. So he's going to reset that car. He hasn't just, as far as I can see, I'm not sure if he made a pit stop, but he actually pulled the car to the side, reset. He's going to take a brand new fuel load, and that's a strategy we didn't expect to see.
Yeah, definitely. Perhaps he's going for a little bit more stability with a tiny bit more fuel in the car. It might cost you some lap time, but at a track like Mount Panorama, stability is definitely more of a boon than a car that is pointy, as Sebastian Flock collecting the wall out of Forest Elbow. And you can see from his expression, he's already realizing that was a bit of an issue. You hit the wall in these cars, there's no fenders protecting you, and that would be very easy suspension damage there.
Certainly going to have to pull that car in the pits, we would say, halfway through the session. Now, who are we watching here? This is the 85 of Daniel Yeaman. Very smart sim racer, Daniel Yeaman. Reese, you've commentated with Daniel, knows his stuff. Certainly a good expert to have in the commentary booth. And certainly when you talk to him in the virtual paddock, he's done his homework for this one. He knows the strategy. He knows what to expect, what to do. And he's, well, as you can tell there, not even focusing on the road, looking up at something so he can drive with his eyes closed, I would say, next minute.
Yeah, very calm and analytical head on those shoulders. G'day, Dan. And he certainly does do his homework, as you say. He's also very very prominent figure in the AusNZ sim racing community when it comes to league organisation. He helps to run Aussie Online Gaming and their Porsche Cup Series. He's also helped out with the rule books for various leagues, including V8 Scops this year. Marcelo Rivera, meanwhile, out of Hell Corner, 1 minute 57.6 there. He's currently second in the session now, and things working out okay for him. He is getting a slight bit of slipstream down Mountain Straight, so we'll see if this is an improvement. But you see his teammate Flock behind him there. I think ERT are now doing what you alluded to before, and are starting to work together to get a bit of extra slipstream.
Brenton O'Brien, who's spotting for both of them. So Brenton O'Brien, team boss over at ERT, as you mentioned, the Evolution Racing team. Here is, now that'd be Josh Muggleton in the 81, so he's right there with them. He could also be getting a slipstream. Hayden Veld, where's he going to sit so far? Now, Hayden Veld, as far as I'm aware, has not set a legal lap time. It says a 1 minute 58.2, but that was deleted for track limits. Here he comes across the line. Hayden Veld, where will this first lap time set him? A 58.3. That is only good enough for P14 for the moment. So whilst you mentioned the improvement from Rivera, Katsadonis and Vartanian also stepped in to the second row, and that demoted Griffin Gardner down to 5th place. And he'll start alongside Daniel Yeaman provisionally for the moment. 5 minutes to go. It's going to heat up from here. These are important grid positions, Reese, because we don't know what the slipstream effect's going to be like come the race in a few minutes' time.
Yeah, and whether or not we'll see any 1 minute 56s in this session. The number 74 of Ben Roberts then, he's done the entire session so far without much of a slipstream. And amazing that he has set the lap times he has without that slipstream. We're seeing that potentially Josh Muggleton slowed down for a draft with Kurt Stenberg, so it might be that Trans-Tasman Racing is playing the team game here as well. But we'll keep our eye on Benjamin Roberts for the time being. A little bit squirrely on the exit of the chase, but still nice and smooth on the way into Murray's.
Well, Stenberg's pulled into the pits, so that's out of the picture for them. But it was a good thought by them, the Trans-Tasman Racing duo. Benjamin Roberts across the line, a 57.6, so 4/10 off his provisional pole time. It'd be interesting to see now. The track temp's actually rising as the session's going on here. Now, you might find this fascinating, but it's 8:52 a.m. local time simulated in the sim. So as the time ticks on, the track temp is only getting hotter at the moment as the sun begins to rise here around the mountains. I'm wearing a hoodie. Reese, you're in flannel tonight. We were prepared for the cold weather. Unfortunately, though, at Mount Panorama, virtually at least, it's pretty hot out there.
Yeah, indeed. The actual date of the race in sim is the 11th of November, or the 15th of November, I'm just seeing.
Right
so,
on cue.
yeah, that's getting into the depths of summer here in Australia. Have a look at how much Josh Muggleton is pushing through the S's and the dipper. That's incredible. And he might be getting a tiny bit of aero disturbance from the two cars ahead, Mario Vartanian and one of the Synergy cars, I believe. But here is where being at that close will pay dividends for these guys. That's a double draft there for Josh Muggleton. I'd be interested to see what speed he reaches coming into the chase.
So far for Muggo, only one green sector this lap so far. We haven't seen this sector though. It's green again, a personal best for Josh Muggleton, as he slams on the brakes for the penultimate braking zone through the chase and then through Murray's. So far for Muggo, a 1 minute 57.777 to beat. That's his best time. Will he improve on that one and improve from that spot in P8? He does. And that will set him. Now, where is that time? Put him there into P3. Josh Muggleton onto the second row. Vartanian improves. And finally, somebody has snatched provisional pole away from Benjamin Roberts.
Yeah, I just saw that as the timing ticked over. Brilliant job there from Mario Vartanian. Benjamin Roberts setting also a slightly quicker time there just then. Only 200ths of a second separating he and Vartanian. We'll keep our eye on Veld here as the session enters its final 2 minutes.
Hayden Veld, a lot of work to do. Few personal bests on this lap for him. A lot of sectors. We got mini sectors here, 6 of them to use for us on iRacing. He's got 3 personal bests so far through 5 of the sectors. Not strong through the chase. He's got no draft and no slipstream to work with, and he currently sits down in the 15th position. This will be a big lap time to beat. His previous time was a 1 minute 58.3. Pole sits at a 57.2. He crosses the line. Slight improvement, though, for Hayden Veld there. That's a good time. Sets him up onto the 6th row.
Indeed, that's a nice improvement. 3 positions there and getting into the 57s. He's the last driver in the 57-second bracket, and that's only 7/10 and change off Mario Vartanian's fastest lap time. Benjamin Roberts, though, he does have a chance here to respond to Vartanian. He did make that improvement on the last lap, but again, he has been working without a slipstream for the majority of this session, so what could he possibly pull out of this one? What are his sectors looking like?
This will be quick. This will be very quick for Benjamin Roberts so far. 2 personal bests. But this is the important sector. He's got no draft to work with. I think if he crosses the line, he might be able to squeeze one more lap in.
Well, let's see then, out of the final corner. We'll have to keep our eye out for other drivers who could potentially be improving at the end of the session. Through the final corner for Benjamin Roberts. What does he do across the line? It's going to be a 57.244. He improved by 6 thousandths of a second. It's still not quite enough to overcome Mario Vartanian, but that should secure him on the 2nd row.
That's a very, very good lap time. Who's yet to set some times here? Kurt Stenberg's next across the line. Here he is at the final corner at Murray's. For Stenny, not the best lap time so far. His previous times are 1 minute 58.8. Where does this one set him? That's not even close. So he won't start greater than the last position for the moment. 18 drivers, like we said. If you're wondering where the other 2 are, Bo Albert and Stephen Bull, both very, very sick with the flu, and they will not be racing tonight. So that leaves 18 on the grid. Hayden Veld now in the 53. Just improved to the 6th row on his last run, and going pretty quick so far. A 57.9 to improve. A 57.8 for Hayden Veld. That only improves in 1 position, but it could be a very important one come the race.
Indeed, it could. Lap 1 can go either way at Mount Panorama. Wayne Burke's also finishing a lap here. We'll have to wait and see whether or not he decides to pull into the pits, practice his pit entry. He's not going to do that, but the driver behind him will. And I think that's Angus Cook going into the lane. But out of the final corner for Wayne Burke, going to be a 158.1 there for Burkey. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like that improved him in terms of position.
Waiting to see if anybody else is going to improve. Kane Thornhill, no chance for Kane. And this will be cold conditions for him, being from Queensland. Sebastian Flock, now he could improve. He's on a quick time here as well. Currently sits in 12th, so he was just demoted to 12th position by Hayden Veld. 57.9, that won't be good enough. So Sebastian Flock will sit behind Hayden Veld. They'll both start together on the 6th row. His teammate, though, Marcelo Rivera, sitting in 5th. Doing a great job there. And that is qualifying all but wrapped up. Checkered flag is out from Mount Panorama, Bathurst. And we have your grid for today's 40-minute race for Motorsport Australia's Asia Pacific Qualifier Series. Mario Vartanian, pole position. Great stuff from Vartanian. It was Marcelo Rivera last week. He'll start down on the 3rd row alongside Griffin Gardner. That's a good result, though, for Griffin Gardner. Needs to qualify up the order and avoid incidents. Don't forget Benjamin Roberts. He was a star throughout qualifying, but will only start 2nd. And splitting those 2 rows will be Josh Muggleton and Tom Katsadonis. He's also feeling crook here tonight, Tom Katsadonis, who will start on row 2. Behind them, Daniel Yeaman, Rob Bowden on the 4th row together. 2 of the smartest racers out there. Rob Bowden on row 4 has actually raced here in the real world. Raced Toyota 86s here back in April for the Bathurst 6 Hour. Angus Cook behind row 5. Liam Reston rounds out the top 10. Your championship leader starting well down the order. And Reese Hayden Veld with that late lap time climbs into 11th on the 6th row.
Indeed he does, joined by Sebastian Flock in 12th. Mitchell McLeod is going to line up in lucky 13th alongside Chris Mitchell, who did not have a successful race at Phillip Island, only made it 4 corners in. He said to me on Facebook he hopes he makes it more than that here. Wayne Burke and Kane Thornhill are going to be on row 8, and then Ashley Lear and Kurt Stenberg will round out your 18-car field here, with race control, obviously, with a car in the session. Now begins the wait for all of these drivers on screen and more besides. to prepare for the run into turn 1. A bit of a short one, Jonathan, but there's plenty of chaos that can happen around the first lap at the mountain.
Well, trying to identify your favorite drivers and your stars on that picture. It's great to have them on board. Wish we had more as well. As many drivers, and the more, the merrier, the better. Mount Panorama here will host today's action. If you're just joining us, welcome along. This is Motorsport Australia's 2022 iRacing Asia Pacific single-seater eSports Qualifier Series. 3 rounds. This is the second of 3. And those are your important facts for today's race. So it'll be 40 minutes. We're expecting a pit stop somewhere for fuel. Maybe not tyres. That's been a big discussion point. And if any driver has any incidents, they can repair that car instantly with what's called a fast repair. Now, for this race, we saw a couple of incidents last time out into the heavy braking zone at Honda for turn number 1. I don't really expect much today, but if we do get one through the mountain, I certainly don't want to see one through Skyline or the Dipper, because that could end in catastrophe.
Yeah, certainly could. No room either side through that section of the track. And referencing that video that you said you were sent a while ago of that huge pile-up completely blocking the track, certainly hope that we don't see that here tonight. I don't want to jinx it, though. Let's hope that the drivers have as clean a run as they possibly can, and we can get ourselves a good race here at Mount Panorama.
I feel like I've heard the track is jammed quite a few times over the last few years. Hopefully not today, as you say, Reese. Here we go, though. The race is about to be underway. Vartanian on the right-hand side of picture. He starts from pole. Benjamin Roberts, though, has been very quick. Will he challenge into hell? Turn number 1. 40 minutes of action. We're underway. Very, very poor start off that second row by Josh Muggleton. He's already falling down the order, but for the lead, it's Vartanian from Roberts, and a very poor getaway. I think that's Marcelo Rivera who's caught up, and we have an incident down the back of the pack. That is the 269 of Angus Cook. Just managed to keep it out of terminal damage, but for the lead for the moment, it's Vartanian, challenged by Roberts, heading into Griffin's Bend, and I think Benjamin Roberts has it. Roberts to the lead on lap 1.
Brilliant move there, textbook that you'd see at Griffin's, but I don't think Vartanian is done. He's going to have to be careful, though. It's pretty much single file here across the top of the mountain. Most of the drivers have made it through cleanly, and that incident for Angus Cook was all on his own, just for everyone's information. Spun on the curb at the exit of the corner. Here comes the slipstream, though. The top 3 have broken away. Tom Katsadonis is right with these guys, but he's not going to be able to make a move for some time yet.
And it was a poor start by Muggleton, who sits in 4th, but he somehow managed to keep within the clutches of the pack. Now, was that Katsadonis all 4 wheels off the track, Scotty McLaughlin style, through the exit, right there at the top of the mountain, and he's just managed to keep it out of the wall, but now he's fallen right into the clutches of Josh Muggleton in the 4th position. Slipstream, very important. I swear, Reese, I swear I saw Benjamin Roberts tag the wall there at the elbow.
Yeah, well, little bits of contact don't always put paid to your race. Mario Vartanian, though, is losing touch with Benjamin Roberts here, and it could be a move by Tom Katsadonis. He's almost being pushed there by Josh Muggleton as they make their way into the chase. Will there be any moves made? Defensive position there from Vartanian, but it looks to me like Muggleton and Katsadonis haven't made any moves either. Side by side between Liam Reston and Hayden Veld. Remember, Reston won last round. He doesn't want to be right here. Lock up ahead. Looks like Griffin Gardner's gone off.
Oh, no. Griffin Gardner, all he needed was a clean result tonight, and it looks like he could have been involved in a collision with Marcelo Rivera, who's going to somehow point that car straight into the pit lane. That's an ingenuitive way to enter the pits there. You'll be allowed to do that at least. That is absolutely heartbreaking for Griffin Gardner, who scored 0 points last week. Quickest driver in pre-qualifiers. The racing, though, will continue. No safety cars at this point, fellas, and it's full throttle, full beams up to the checkered flag.
Indeed it is. Well, field spaced out just a little bit on the way into the cutting on lap 2, and we check out a quick replay here of what happened between Rivera and Gardner. That was a rear end tag there. Looks like Gardner might have overshot his braking point into Murray's.
Yeah, certainly. It was hard to see. It was a quick picture, but certainly guilty. Here's another angle of it. That's Griffin Gardner behind. We're right on board with Rivera, and you got to say that's all on Griffin Gardner there, just overshooting the braking zone, as you said, Reese. And that is absolutely heartbreaking. And in the pits right now is Rivera. That's a very, very long pit stop for Marcelo Rivera. So something's gone wrong for him. And he's essentially out of contention. We're expecting pit stops in the drive-through time through the lane to only be about 25 seconds, Reese. He's sitting there for almost an extra minute than he's expected to.
Indeed, he might have gotten a penalty for an unsafe pit entry. Not too sure, though. Change for second, meanwhile. Tom Katsadonis making a move on Mario Vartanian. And you see Muggleton passing Bowden just behind to get back into fifth. So, Tom Katsadonis, he finished on the podium last round at Phillip Island. He could definitely do the same here. Meanwhile, further back in the field, we see Mitch McLeod here trying his best to hold off Kane Thornhill and his teammate Ash Lear. And on board here with Kane Thornhill in the real world, imagine the amount of concentration required to follow another F3 car at speed around this place.
So we think Marcelo Rivera, who's exited the pit lane, he would have got the penalty. What was that for cutting the pit lane, right, Reese? It's not the right way to enter pit lane. So that's why he's lost about 50 seconds there with the penalty. Now let's paint the championship picture for a moment, because Benjamin Roberts sits in fifth. Vartanian, who currently sits fourth in the championships, sitting in third at the moment. Roberts leads, I should say. And Katsadonis, Yeaman, Liam Reston, they're all in there for the title at the moment. They've all got some great results. So right now, this championship is wide open, but most of your front runners are in those top 10 positions.
Indeed, certainly sets things up well for a competitive final at Suzuka if things stay as they are, but we're pretty sure they won't, Bathurst being Bathurst. And I got to say, pretty good job by Dan Yeaman to now work his way up into fourth place. He's behind these guys that we're riding on board with and currently outside of a second back, so won't be getting much benefit from the slipstream. But if Katsadonis and Vartanian battle like they are, they could slow each other up and bring Yeaman into contention for a podium.
So we've crossed the 5 opening minutes of the race. Let's have a breather for a sec. Roberts, Katsadonis, Vartanian. That's your top 3. Yeaman, who scored 0 points last week, sits in 4th. Muggleton, a very speedy sim racer, very experienced. He sits in 5th. This is the battle for second position. Vartanian all over the rear end of Katsadonis, and you can just see the draft has so much influence on this race. The most important part, Reese, for the moment is that Benjamin Roberts, look at the lead advantage. I think he's broken the toe and broken the slipstream. This is a very important opening stint for him.
Oh, oversteer for Katsadonis on the exit of Murray's. Doesn't harm him too much, though. Yeah, Roberts, 1.5 seconds ahead. On iRacing, generally about 1.5 seconds back is when you start getting the draft at top speed, but it's strongest when you're a second back from the car in front. Katsadonis doesn't have much chance of getting a real benefit being as far back as he is. Battle for 5th then. Muggleton, Bowden, and last round's winner Liam Reston all together, and here comes Bowden potentially to make a move up the inside of Griffins. He's not far up enough to get the move done there. He's going to have to sit behind Muggo for the time being. Chris Mitchell and Wayne Burke are trading places, and that is contact. Oh, goodness. Okay, car spun there. I think that's Chris Mitchell. His car's destroyed.
So I heard somebody go off, if you heard. Right in the background, you heard somebody skid off the racetrack. It was Chris Mitchell, like you said. I think this was all on his own from what I heard. Well, let's take another look at it. So that's Wayne Burke up ahead. Mitchell goes for the outside line. Now what's happened here, Reese?
Well, he tries to go for it, and it looks like Burke might have overshot the inside a little bit, and then, back onto the racetrack. That has completely taken Kurt Stenberg out of the running as well. Poor Stenny. He at least managed to finish at Phillip Island despite not much practice, but looks like his day is done.
And straight on the radio was Chris Mitchell, who was now retired from the race. There's no way you can get that car back to the pits. It was destroyed to pieces. And he initially asked for that incident to be investigated. So Wayne Burke could be facing a penalty after that one. Race control, by the way, they've just been given, Griffin Gardner's just been given a drive-through penalty. He currently sits in 15th. And that's not going to help his chances today to claw his way back into points.
Yeah, obviously that was for the contact with Marcelo Rivera at the final corner. So race control right on it and assigning penalties where they are justified. So, to begin the fifth lap of this race, it's going to be Benjamin Roberts still in the lead, but looks like the lead has been eliminated a little bit. He was leading by 1.5 seconds, remember, last time we saw, but now the gap's down to 1.1 seconds. Katsadonis and Vartanian are catching him up.
This is where they're going to have to work together. Benjamin Roberts sits 5th in the championship. Vartanian's one of his championship competitors, and so is Tom Katsadonis, who currently has the fastest lap of the race, as you can identify on your pictures. His name I highlighted in purple, and he will score an extra point for his championship
Spin
chances.
for Bowden. Sorry, spin for Rob Bowden coming out of the cutting. He was trying to defend. He actually just made the pass on Josh Muggleton, but that's a very awkward spot for him to be in. Has to make a 20-point turn to try and get himself out of that. He's missed his rear wing as well. That's definitely a fast repair on the cards.
Yeah, not sure if you could have done a quick burnout to get rid of that. Here's a replay of the incident right here with Rob Bowden. Through the cutting. And he's in the 16 up ahead, so that's all on his own. Oh, he's gone way too fast there. It's a corner you can make that mistake, Reese. You have to go so fast through there. It's a medium speed corner. So easy to lose the rear end.
Yeah, just got free on him on the entry, and there wasn't much chance that he could recover it with the elevation change. Have a look at Vartanian, though. He's bump drafting Tom Katsadonis. That's why they're catching up to Benjamin Roberts. They're actually giving each other a little speed boost here. Now, I know that in real life, it's technically not legal to bump draft a car. That is, run into the back of them and take advantage of the slipstream to increase speed for both of you. But it seems Mario Vartanian is willing to try and take that risk.
So let's uncover lap times now. Roberts' last lap, a 1 minute 57.8. 58.0 for Katsadonis, 57.9 for Vartanian. So it wasn't working last lap around, Reese.
No, evidently not. But I think they'll keep trying. Looks like the drivers are coming up on their first little bit of traffic here. Kurt Stenberg has taken his fast repair after coming together with Chris Mitchell at this very location. And he's now back out on the racetrack. And it looks like he's still managed to keep himself on the lead lap for now. But the way these guys are catching him, I think he might be getting blue flags at the moment.
I've always loved Kurt Stenberg's driving position. He's right up close to the steering wheel. I don't know if I could have ever can't even speak English at the moment. I don't know if I could have ever driven like that had I ever raced. Rob Bowden, on a separate section of pictures I'm looking at, is almost just about to get into pit lane now. That's how long it's been to be able to get that car back in the pit lane. He'll be lapped for sure after all the repairs, I think. And it's going to be a long road home for Rob Bowden after that error, who's raced here in the real world. He raced Toyota 86s at Bathurst a few months ago, so he's got that real world experience, but driving on the sims a completely different beast.
Yeah, that it is. There's no repair bills in sim racing unless you have a hardware failure or something like that, but unfortunately, sometimes them's the breaks, as it is in the real world. No further action from race control for the incident between the 82 of Chris Mitchell and the 89 of Wayne Burke. That was the incident that gave Stenberg all of his damage. But looks like Griffin Gardner has retired from the race after getting his penalty from race control. So that's another no points run here for Griffin.
And he will, I'm not going to say he's mathematically out of contention, but it's going to be tough at Suzuka to claw up all those points, because I think the maximum you could score in a round, win, fastest lap, and the no incident points race would be, what's that, 28 points?
Yeah, 28.
So he's got a lot of work to do, and he's going to have a lot of luck go his way to end up qualifying later on for the international stage. So that lead battle, that lead advantage, still 1 second. It sits within just about the right range. That's Kurt Stenberg getting lapped. By the way, your leaders, so 74 there, that's Benjamin Roberts up ahead. That's your other leader. He's just about to catch Marcelo Rivera too. So that's also something that Marcelo Rivera would want to try and avoid. Bit of a tongue twister there, Reese. Oh no!
Reston! That's last round's winner, going for a spin at the exit of Griffin's. I don't know if he did that on his own or not, but it does seem like the car isn't damaged, so we'll check it out on the replay here. Let's see. Big self-spin we are hearing. So he fires it on in, and he was in the grass on the entry, but nah, it was the exit that really got him, and the curb just exacerbated it. Very fortunate that he was able to get out of the way of the approaching cars there.
Now, remember, that's your championship leader, so that's very important for the championship. 27 points was his score, 7 points the lead advantage to Katsadonis. That's not something Liam Reston needed. Luckily, he's still in the points-paying positions. Mitch McLeod, and look, that's got to be terminal damage.
Yeah, absolutely. The right rear is not attached to the suspension anymore. That was a big incident for him. And again, it looks like he did it all on his own as we go to the replay. He just ricocheted off the wall out of the dipper. You'll see it in a moment. There it is. Bam. Into the wall, and yeah, that completely took out the right rear. Sorry, I said left rear before.
It's all right. At least you can say Rivera is all I will say as he goes through the dipper into the braking zone. And there it is. Just a slight bit of contact. What's he like? A couple centimeters off. Now, for Mitch McLeod, and people who might not know him, Reese, he's been sim racing for over a decade. Got a lot of real-world motorsport experience too. I think if he puts in some work, he's one of the best out there. Now, what's this battle going on here? Vartanian all over the rear end of Katsadonis for second position. He still doesn't want to pass him.
Yeah, and I think that's wise at this stage. It's still very early on in this race, and with the long straights here at Mount Panorama, you pass someone in the slipstream, and it's very likely that they'll pass you back. Having said that, Vartanian and Katsadonis could stand a chance of working together here. Maybe Katsadonis leads down Mountain Straight, Vartanian leads down Conrod Straight, and they could definitely slingshot themselves up to Benjamin Roberts. The gap's back out to 1.5 seconds.
Could come down to that pit stop. As, I mean, what? It won't take place for, that's about 10 minutes to go is the latest we'll see anyone run without making the stop. But look through the elbow now, 1.5 seconds to 2. I think Benjamin Roberts has the pure advantage here on lap time. He's doing a great job so far, even though he hasn't had the draft. And we caught a glimpse of this too, didn't we, Reese, in qualifying? He was able to set provisional pole for most of the session without a toe, and he's doing a great job right now as these two still scuttle away and try and battle it out for second position. Look at the gap, though, to Daniel Yeaman in 4th and Josh Muggleton in 5th. There they are, right at the back of pictures. Quite a while behind. Ignore Kurt Stenberg. He's been lapped. He's in the 47. That's Muggleton in 5th. And then there's the rest of your top 10. And in the back of the pack, Liam Reston Reese is setting some good lap times at the moment in clean air.
He is indeed. We'll see what time he sets across the line this time. 1 minute 57.5, and that is a new fastest lap of the race. So Reston has an extra point in the bag for the time being. But this fight happening in front of him is really drawing him up here. There goes Veld trying to get up the inside of Sebastian Flock at Griffin's Bend. And the inside line is the one with the advantage here just because of the crown in the road, but it doesn't look like Veld is wanting to go for the move just yet.
It's all over him right now. Now that for Hayden Veld, very brave. Raced over at Phillip Island on the weekend in the Superkart Nationals. So this will be the style of racing he'd enjoy, Reese. You know, right up the alley of the driver ahead, like you do in karting. Just straight through the corners, open wheelers. Pretty much the perfect style of racing for him right now. Sebastian Flock, we ride on board with, sitting in the 6th position. Flock last week scored 0 points, was outside the top 10. And remember, was involved in an incident in the opening laps as well. And that certainly cost his chances over at Phillip Island. So halfway through this race, Reese, how do you think it's looking so far? You think Benjamin Roberts can be caught for first position as this battle continues?
It's looking increasingly likely to me that he won't be, but don't forget, pretty much every driver in the race that hasn't taken damage of some kind has yet to make a pit stop. So we'll have to wait and see. There goes Josh Muggleton, making a pass for 4th on Daniel Yeaman, and I alluded to that just before. Veld continuing to chase down Flock, who has played tennis in the real world, but tends to wear golf shirts, as we've seen on his Zoom feed. So down into Murray's Corner, the two Synergy boys of Hayden Veld and Wayne Burke. Synergy Sim Racing, one of the stalwart teams of the AusNZ sim racing community, fighting against another one of them, Evolution Racing Team. That's a good exit by Hayden Veld, I have to say. And Sebastian Flock might be sweating a little bit and start looking into his mirrors.
Well, he was wearing a hoodie in practice, so he's certainly sweating at the moment. He's taken that hoodie off, gone to the T-shirt for the race, sitting in 6th. Nice battle here. Hayden Veld's got him, though, for that 6th position. Sebastian Flock got demoted to 7th. Direct drive wheels, Reese. I've driven them before. I don't really have one, but they can certainly drop a sweat right in that cockpit. It's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, definitely. Direct drive wheels, if you're curious, as we right on board there with Veld in the real world, there's a few different kinds of sim racing wheels you can get. Some of them are gear driven, some of them are belt driven, like my Thrustmaster T500 RS, and some of them are direct drive. It's literally a servo motor that is fed data directly from the sim. And you can tune them up to have just massive forces going through the wheel. Most drivers don't do that, though, as there's Hayden Veld into the wall. Oh, no. That was a mistake made on his own, too. The front left's gone. Oh, actually, both left side tyres. That is huge. Goodness gracious me.
So Hayden Veld through. So where's he approaching now? He's straight through the S's. Down through Skyline, in the braking zone, to the dipper. Is it on the exit of the dipper? It is. Oh, no, that's a hefty whack with the barrier. That's like Chaz Mostert back in the day, wasn't it, Reese?
Yeah.
Straight through the braking zone. Now, luckily, it's virtual. He won't have to suffer from any physical injuries or anything of that sort. And there's another view of it, and just avoiding the incident was Sebastian Flock, who was just passed by Hayden Veld earlier that lap.
Oh, goodness. Well, that's a freebie for Flock in any case, but man, it just shows you the dangers of the exit of the dipper. You want to take as much out of it as possible just for the run down to Forest Elbow, but yeah, you get a little crossed up over the curbs. Looking at Veld's car, it was also a bit unsettled going through the turn as well. Reston, meanwhile, there is Sebastian Flock losing another position, back to 7th. Oh, but Reston's gone deep, and Flock's going to get him right back again. A new fastest lap, meanwhile, Jonathan. This time it's from our leader, Benjamin Roberts. No draft, 57.5.
And if I was an engineer or spotter, I would not relay that to the other drivers still racing out there. That would dash their hopes and dreams of having any chance of catching Benjamin Roberts, who leads this race at the moment. These are the two battling for the final podium positions. I've never seen that shot of the mountain before through there. That's absolutely insane. And then through the elbow, look at the elevation change. 174 meters of elevation change through this circuit. And one funny thing I used to do in the past, Reese, was me and Chad Nalon actually did this a couple of years back. We looked up some Google reviews of different racing circuits. I found one of Mount Panorama from Joe Huang, 5 stars. Recommended, a nice racing track, but there isn't any signs pointing which direction to go first. Every car seemed to be going anti-clockwise. I went the right way. I look at the pictures. He's driving the wrong way. Somebody help Joe Huang out. He was driving Mount Panorama the wrong way round.
Huh, interesting, because I thought that it was a two-way road most of the year. That's quite interesting.
He did mention that. He mentioned it was a two-way lane. He did also say the police car which targets speeding was sitting waiting for him or something like that. I can't really read the rest of it. It's a very, very long review. Back to the racing action. Joe Huang, 5 stars. That's Mount Panorama for you.
Yeah, indeed. If you want to talk about racetracks going the other way, Phillip Island as well. It was originally designed to be run in a clockwise direction because of Victorian road laws at the time that required a turn to decrease in radius. But apparently they didn't want that. They said, we want a fast racetrack, so they flipped the direction. And further to your point earlier, Mount Panorama, every other day of the year, 60km/h speed limit enforced by police. So don't try to go racing around it.
Unless you're on the sim.
Yes.
Right here today on the 8th of August on a Monday evening. Hope you're enjoying the action. It's been a great one so far. This is Angus Cook. Angus Cook, who sits in the 9th position. Spoke to Angus earlier. He said he was very happy with the setup that Motorsport Australia provided this week. He certainly didn't come accustomed to the one they had for Phillip Island and the pre-qualifiers. So you can already see proving his worth with this setup and driving very comfortably.
Yeah, he is looking quite comfortable as they go through the dipper. Just wind on as much lock as possible and pray that the car has the grip as the track falls away. You know, I've been to this track in real life. I've walked it, been to the Bathurst 12 Hour about 5 times, and I tell you what, it's a typical commentary cliche that TV pictures don't do this track justice. I tell you what, it's 100% true. You try and walk this track and you will be tired by the time you get back up to the top. Seeing that the gap for the lead, meanwhile, in this race is down to a second, so it looks like Benjamin Roberts might be falling into a bit of trouble again.
That's the first time it's been under a second. Now, it's climbed up back over, but it was under a second for the first time since I can remember, since the beginning of the race. So Benjamin Roberts maybe made a mistake. Maybe those tyres are beginning to fall away.
Traffic as well for Marcelo Rivera in front.
That is true. Now, if anything, I would hope that that would give him a bit of a tow down here through the mountain straight. Now, if you're Rivera, do you get straight out of the way and avoid a penalty? You'd certainly have to say. As Rivera, who was involved in that incident at Murray's on lap 1 with Griffin Gardner, is finding himself being lapped by his own championship rivals. How about that? By the way, I see a position change. I think Daniel Yeaman and Muggleton were in a nice battle. There is Muggleton in the wall.
No.
Muggleton's in the wall. That's at the cutting. That is critical, and Josh Muggleton is out of round number 2 at Bathurst.
He was out of round number 1 at Phillip Island as well. 0 points once again for Muggo. What on earth happened for him here out of Griffin's? Oh, he actually started on the exit of Griffin's there, and he ricocheted out of the wall. Great incident avoidance there by Dan Yeaman, I have to say. But, oh man, Muggo even made contact with his teammate Stenberg on the way. Look at this on board from Yeaman. He'll see Muggo get into the wall, and which way is he going? Which way is he going? Whoop!
Oh!
That's incredible.
That's insane. That's one of the best incident avoidance I've ever seen. That's just remarkable. I've seen some big ones, Reese. You know, when you watch the NASCAR, even the sim races on NASCAR, that's just brilliant by Daniel Yeaman. The instincts, perfect by him. Now, we got him here on Zoom as well. Would have loved to have seen his live reaction. The battles continue, though. Katsadonis has set the fastest lap in 2nd position. We're approaching the pit stops. We're not far away from the only pit stops of the day here, and that could really change the shape of this race.
Yeah, as we mentioned, we're expecting the drivers to come in around the lap 15 mark if they decide to run the tank all the way out. And the leaders currently starting lap 14. Still battles going on all throughout the field. Sebastian Flock losing another position there to Wayne Burke. But of course, he still stays in 7th because there's been drivers in front of him just dropping like flies. Have a look at this now. Bit of a draft off Marcelo Rivera for the likes of Katsadonis and Vartanian. There's 4 cars in the frame at the moment, but Benjamin Roberts has already gotten by him. So coming across the top here might actually end up slowing up Katsadonis and Vartanian just a tad.
A lot of traffic through the mountain, past the grate, on towards the top of the mountain, highest point of the circuit. And now we begin the downhill dip into past Skyline. This is such a tough braking zone through here. And then into the dipper, one of my favorite camera shots. And this is where Sebastian Flock ended up binning it straight into the barriers. Oh, no, not Sebastian Flock. Hayden Veld, I should say. He was out of the race. Sebastian Flock was watching the pictures. Hayden Veld, who's officially retired from this race, went straight into the wall there, just Chaz Mostert style. Well, the pit stops come this lap round. Waiting and seeing. This slipstream could help here from Kurt Stenberg.
Indeed it could. Well, let's see then as they make their way into the chase again. Oh, Vartanian, take it easy, mate. Very late on the brakes. Nearly collected the rear of Tom Katsadonis. Now, do any of these guys go for the lane? It looks like Rivera's going to pull over and let 2nd and 3rd by. Gave them a nice slipstream down Conrod Straight, but it looks like these guys are going all the way to the end of lap 15 here.
Yeah, so Rivera out of the way. Now Stenberg next. Still 1.1 seconds to the leaders. Or has Stenberg gotten out of the way there? It's hard to see.
Yeah,
from the pictures.
Stenberg
Yes,
let
he
them
has.
by a while ago. So I think the next car up the track is going to be Rob Bowden, and he's about half a lap ahead of these guys.
Yeah, okay. So there you go. I don't think the pass is going to be made. He's trying to bump draft him. You can't do it in these cars. You've got to do it carefully. And they head into the braking zone of Griffins. I don't think they're going to make it past this lap. So currently, for this race at the moment, they've ran 14 laps. It's the end of lap 15. We're expecting the entire field to come in. Now, everybody in your top 10 positions is yet to pit. And I see purple sectors out there. Benjamin Roberts purple through the second sector. Vartanian purple through sector 1. They're all on it. They're flooring it because these are important in laps.
Indeed, it's all about losing as little time as possible on the in-lap and out-lap, but you see that the fastest lap has gone back to Liam Reston, who's currently in 5th. He's down to a 1 minute 57.18, and that is a full 0.3 faster than the times that the leaders are setting. So Reston still with plenty of pace. You have to imagine if it weren't for his slight whoops-a-daisy moment, he could be up here fighting with these guys.
Will he dive in? 10 minutes to go. At the end of the next lap. Benjamin Roberts didn't start the race from pole. Might have caught our qualifying coverage and saw that he was very strong for pole. There is Vartanian pulling the trigger finally for a pass into second position. That is very sneaky from Mario Vartanian, who decides to box. Benjamin Roberts doesn't box. He goes out for another lap, so a couple of these drivers have saved enough fuel to go out for one more lap, but that is a very surprising decision. Vartanian pits a lap early. That is certainly going to cost him because that car is going to be heavier for an extra lap compared to his rivals.
Indeed, but question is, will he decide to bolt on a fresh set of tyres? That is the question. Quite a few drivers didn't decide to take tyres at Phillip Island because it's not usually necessary in these F3 cars. It looks to me like Vartanian at a stop now, and it is just fuel in the car for him. So pit stop time of 4.7 seconds. Liam Reston and Angus Cook are also in the lane, the Summit SimSports teammates. And looks like Reston getting it done very nicely. Angus Cook as well pulling out of his box. So we finally get regular stops for our pitters. Ashley Lear in from 10th.
Ashley Lear, who was sitting down the bottom end of the pre-qualifier standings, trying to score as many points as he can get in this event here today. Here we watch your race leader, Benjamin Roberts, absolutely belting through on the drop down to the elbow. Full throttle through here, all the way down to the chase and the braking zone. Will it be the final braking zone before he heads into the lane? I don't think he's going to go one more lap. 3.1 second advantage on Katsadonis. Has something gone wrong for Katsadonis? I think a lot of that time was lost at the chase, surely.
Yeah, it would have, and also he doesn't have the benefit of being pressured and bump drafted by Vartanian either. Rivera is not getting onto his rear diffuser, so Katsadonis, being on his own, losing quite a bit of time. Let's see then if Benjamin Roberts goes into the lane. He does indeed. Katsadonis follows him in. Rivera already in the pits for the service, and of course he had to deal with that penalty as well. And wow, big lockup on the way in for Katsadonis. Now we'll see what Vartanian can do here. He's coming up behind a car. Goodness gracious me. That is Mitch McLeod there. And looks like Mitch is going to stay out on track as well. He's already been to the pits once. But let's see where these two guys come out relative to Mario Vartanian. Yeaman, Burke, and Flock also in the lane. Kane Thornhill, the only car left to pit. There goes Roberts.
There's Roberts on the exit. Will he maintain the lead? You have to say he will. Will he have the straight line advantage? Vartanian appears behind, though. So, Katsadonis, excuse me, appears behind Vartanian. So that's first Roberts, second Vartanian. Katsadonis sits in third. So after he was passed by Mario on that run into the in-lap, he will not take back second position. But getting past Mitch McLeod has been an absolute struggle for Mario Vartanian. He's got 7 minutes to go to make up 2.5 seconds to Benjamin Roberts. Otherwise, the virtual champagne will be tasted by Roberts in first position.
He's going to have to drive the wheels off that car as Vartanian, a karter in the real world, so got plenty of experience driving vehicles that handle somewhat like a virtual Formula 3. Let's see what he can do. Battles could eventuate potentially for 4th now that the pit stop cycle is completed. Dan Yeaman has come out ahead of Liam Reston there in 5th place. And Reston's pit stop was a 1/10 of a second faster, and he actually took 6/10 out of Dan Yeaman on pit lane transit time. So he's definitely got some rapid pace, championship leader.
Looking very good. But a bit too far behind. I think damage limitation right's just got to be 4th. No chance of him catching a podium place. But we've seen some unforced errors today, Reese. That's something I didn't expect to see. I would have thought there'd be a lot of wheel-to-wheel collisions, but seen a lot more unforced errors than I certainly would have expected. I think that's just the mountain. It'll be a bit of a race of attrition around Australia's Holy Grail. And there is the view between Reston and Daniel Yeaman. Whoa! Oh, through the exit of the chase. Barely saves it.
Deja vu. I've just been in this place before as Reston makes his way into Murray's corner. You get on the power out of the chase and, yeah, you do have to get a little bit of oversteer on to make it through, but it might have been a bit too much for Liam Reston's liking.
I think that explains it, though. He is pushing, so he is going for 4th position with only 5 minutes to go. Yeaman, if you remember, Reese, shouldn't even be in this race. I don't know how he survived that incident with Muggleton.
Yeah.
Just barely got his nose out of the way. I'd love to see another angle of that. I swear they might have rubbed at least, surely a millimeter in that one.
Yeah, it was probably like ever so slight contact, but maybe Yeaman just got away with it. And he could have taken his fast repair in the pit cycle as well, so he might have a fresh car on him. Regardless, it's not going to help his pace. Reston continuing to catch him. This fight is really coming down. When we checked in on the gap last time down Conrod, it was 9/10 of a second. It's coming down to 6/10 of a second now. Reston is on an absolute charge.
Doing a great job. Battle for the lead. That hasn't changed. A lot of sparks, by the way, into Skyline. 2.5 seconds now between your top two, but it's these two in a battle for points. Be interesting to see where the championship picture lies after this one, because we also have those bonus points. We've got the one for fastest lap, which Liam Reston holds, and the 2 bonus points for scoring no incident points, which, fair to say, I don't think many drivers would have today. There's been a lot of incidents here at the mountain.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you drive a virtual car around here. It is definitely rare that you complete a lap without at least getting a 0x. So we'll have to wait and see. Into the pits, meanwhile, for Marcelo Rivera. Second time he's visited the lane, and I think that might just be to put a couple extra bits of fuel in the car. Oh, actually, no, he's changing tyres. Looks like he's going for the bonus point for fastest lap, Jonathan.
That's interesting because some drivers say the tyres might not even warm up at that stage. So be interesting to see whether or not that's worth it. So Rivera just going for that extra point. Remember, he's still in contention for the championship. He sits at the moment down in the 3rd position coming into this round. Scored 17 points last week with a podium. Did a great job at pole position to start that race too. So unfortunately, you have to say, though, for Griffin Gardner-Rees, probably all over. Like we said, he's going to have to score a mammoth amount of points. I think it's mathematically almost out of contention at the moment for Griffin Gardner, our quickest driver in pre-qualifiers.
Yeah, it's a real shame because, you know, I've spoken to Griffin before. I've seen him race plenty of times. He's an incredibly quick driver, and unfortunately his pace and his talent has not really gotten the chance to be shown here in this series. Reston, meanwhile, right on the back of Dan Yeaman coming into the S's. No chance of trying to make a pass down there into Skyline, but there's every chance that he'll pick up the slipstream down Conrod and make the move for 4th, try and keep his championship dreams alive.
This is the battle to watch. Only a few laps to go in this one. Yeaman, now, how would you rate his defensive driving, Reese?
I would say it's been pretty good, and I think his throttle application is pretty good too, because he's actually pulled away from Reston there coming down Conrod.
Yeah. 7/10 the gap. About where you said. Now, the slipstream effect could still work here. I heard a driver say if you're about 8/10 behind over at the elbow, you can catch a little bit of that draft over on iRacing. So he's right there. Just needs to get a little bit closer. Liam Reston through Murray's he goes. And what's the gap across the line between the two? So now it's about 6/10 the gap between these two. There they are. Some people get annoyed by that. Yes, I'll round it up for you all. 7/10.
Of course. Don't worry. It's all infinitesimal amounts at the end of the day, and I guess it only really matters when you're talking about when they cross the line at the end. Either way, Reston is going to have another chance here to try and make it. We've got just over a minute and a half to go in this race, and Benjamin Roberts is making his way up to Sulman and McPhillamy. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think it might be 2 laps to go currently. There's a chance he might get the white flag. There's a chance he might get the checkered.
Yeah, it's going to be very close. So where is Benjamin Roberts now? He's currently through the S's. There he is, going straight past the dipper. So, minute 8. Yeah, I reckon we'll squeeze one more lap in after this one. So, Benjamin Roberts. I was going to say, if you could tank the lap and slow down, you can get the checker, but he doesn't have that advantage. 2.3 seconds to Vartanian. Great race so far from Benjamin Roberts, though. P1 started on the front row, didn't start first, but he was oh so quick in qualifying. You can certainly see he's put in the practice laps for this one, Reese, all the way through the practice weeks, through qualifying, and now in the race he's been an absolute star.
On board with Rivera for some reason. Something going wrong for him here in the dipper. No, he's just slowing down. Ah, yeah, here we go. Yeah, he is going for the fastest lap, isn't he? He's just trying to get some final tyre warming in. That's a bit cheeky. Meanwhile, oh, goodness. Reston and Yeaman now together, just up ahead of him. Here we go then. Oh, that's a dive. And it is the white flag. Benjamin Roberts just crossing the line. But Dan Yeaman is going to put on the defensive drive of his life here, trying to protect fourth from Liam Reston. Vartanian and Katsadonis, meanwhile, they're back within a second of each other for second.
Man of steel, Daniel Yeaman. Didn't even blink through that final corner. And if Reston was trying to get in his head, he's going to have to do a lot more than that. Final lap. Oh, we've had a spin.
Oh.
Do not tell me that's one of your leaders. Oh, it's Kurt Stenberg. I swear I thought that was Benjamin Roberts, Reese, for a second. It was a white car. This has to be, Reese, to me, the most difficult race of my life to identify cars. All the liveries look so similar.
Yeah, it can be difficult at times, but rest assured, I do have my timing up, and I would have seen if it was our leader.
Roberts, yeah.
So we'll still keep an eye here on this battle for fourth place. Reston catching some slipstream across the top of the mountain here. Look at how close he gets.
So through the elbow are your leaders at the moment. This is an important battle for points. Liam Reston scored 12 points for fourth, 10 points for fifth. These 2 points could make the difference come next week, the final round at Suzuka. He's going to have a long run and a long slipstream on the Conrod Straight. Yeaman will have to bend the rules on this one. But through the chase goes Benjamin Roberts. I think he's got one hand on the trophy so far. Reston into fourth position. Finally, he is through, but will he hold it? And here is your leader, Benjamin Roberts, winner of round number 2 from the mountain. Great job by Benjamin Roberts, who takes an absolutely valiant victory. And the racing continues between these two for fourth position. Wilson on the inside, wheel to wheel, only separated by a matter of inches. And Daniel Yeaman will succumb to the pressure. Finishes in fifth. That is a lapped car. They will not take points from him. That was, looked like Rivera for a second, but I'll confirm that in just a moment's time. Rivera, who was going for fastest lap, so he won't take fifth position from Yeaman, but all the eyes and all the cheers and celebrations will be in Benjamin Roberts' camp. A brilliant victory by him. We've talked about him all day, just being untouched. It was from the first couple laps, Reese, nobody could touch him, and he was absolutely unscathed throughout the event. Barely had a battle all race apart from those opening few laps. Kane Thornhill in 9th, Rob Bowden will take that final point in 10th if he can get that car to the checkered flag. I think he will. And that's your top 10. Those are the 10 who score points here today. What a race, Reese. What a finish.
What a finish indeed. That battle between Reston and Yeaman was fantastic. And Liam Reston will keep the fastest lap there. So it looked like Marcelo Rivera was unsuccessful in his attempt there to take that away. So Reston gets an extra point for his troubles.
Look at that for results. Championship challengers in your top 4 positions. All looking good. All fancying themselves for a spot in your top 4 for the international qualifiers. Roberts, Victor, Vartanian on the podium. Katsadonis sits in 3rd. Your race winner from last week off the podium, but managed to squeeze those extra 2 points on the final lap from Daniel Yeaman. What a cracking scrap that was. Great stuff from Daniel Yeaman, who rounds out the top 5. Wayne Burke, who was involved in that incident with Chris Mitchell, thankfully he avoided a penalty. It's gained him a few extra points in the 89. He sits in 6th. Sebastian Flock, 7th position at the end of the day, in a nice battle all day with Angus Cook in the 269. Loved the setup changes and loved the extra points he'll receive from that, because he was very, very fancy in the Formula 3 today. Driving very well was Angus Cook. Thornhill, like we said, in 9th. Rob Bowden rounds out the top 10. Bowden, Reese, wasn't he involved in an incident earlier in this race, and he still manages to squeeze in an extra point?
Indeed, he ended up missing his front wing and had to take a slow tour back to the pits, so a point for 10th will certainly be a profit from that. Ashley Lear, last car to finish on the lead lap. We have Stenberg and Rivera a lap down, and unfortunately it's a pretty long retirement list from this one. Mitchell McLeod, 5 laps from the end. Muggo, unfortunately, 0 points for him. Same for Hayden Veld, Chris Mitchell, and Griffin Gardner. And those guys didn't even make it 4 laps into the race. Here's one more look then at Dan Yeaman's magnificent avoidance of this incident for Muggleton.
Now, if there's a Guinness World Record for reaction time, it's this. How about that? Oh, I mean, that has to be a matter of millimeters. Is there a unit lower than millimeters, Reese? Can we go for nanomillimeters or something like that?
Micrometers? I don't know. The sim briefly thought that Dan Yeaman's front wing had been taken off, but obviously the car repaired itself on track, so no damage for Yeaman from that, amazingly. And he didn't use his fast repair at the end of that.
He didn't. It means he didn't have any damage, I don't think. So there's your screensaver there, Daniel Yeaman. That was excellent. I'd be having that as my desktop background for at least the next 10 years. That was incredible. What a race. We're still waiting for our winner in a moment, who will be Benjamin Roberts, who will jump in and talk to us in just a moment's time. Benjamin joins us right now. Benjamin, happy to say you are winner for round number 2 from Mount Panorama. That event, I have to say, I don't think it was easy, but from the first couple of laps, you really didn't have to battle that much wheel-to-wheel with many other people.
Yeah, thanks. Yes, that was sort of my plan from the start, was to sort of try and get into the lead and try and bolt downhill on the first lap, and I'm sort of glad that worked. It's definitely not easy. There was a couple of times where I almost lost it coming out of a chase. That's sort of been sort of a tricky area for me, of all places. But other than that, yeah, it was a pretty clean run, and just glad to get this win before I move on to a track I'm not so confident at.
Yeah, Suzuka next week will be quite a challenge. We'll get to that in just a moment's time, because I've got to go back to not just qualifying, but practice as well. You were so strong in clean air. Now, how did you manage to do that? Because a lot of drivers today were relying on the draft, but you were pumping in those lap times, lap after lap, without any toe.
Yeah, with all sort of the league racing I've done, this track is probably the one I've done the most laps at, of any, and so I did about half a dozen race runs in this car sort of over the weekend, in this kind of temperature too, so that really kind of helped.
Finally, Suzuka, why is that track a bogey track for you? Tell us why.
I'm still playing on a G29 wheel, and it's sort of not really conducive to a track like Suzuka. There's heaps of turning, and you've got to be really smooth with your inputs, and I'm also that kind of track. It's just not really my style either, so I think goal next week is just to finish.
Well, hopefully, because right now you've got a lot of strong points. You could be headed towards those international finals. Well done, Benjamin Roberts. That was a very, very dominant victory, Reese, who's standing by alongside Mario Vartanian, who finished in second.
I am indeed, the number 77 with us in the comms box now. Mario, congratulations on that podium. Pole position for you, second at the end. You must be happy with putting that fastest time in qualifying, but it was all about the draft around here, wasn't it?
Yeah, at the beginning, well, thanks to Griffin for the good tow on my pole lap. Probably wouldn't have done it without him. And then, yeah, I was kind of slow on my first laps, probably being a little too cautious. It felt kind of understeery, and I didn't really practice on these hot temps, so it kind of took me a little bit to adjust. But once I got in the river, me and Tom were pretty fast.
Yeah, it certainly did, but it was crucial, that move into the chase on the in-lap for you and pitting a lap earlier as well. Just talk us through what your thoughts were behind taking that strategy, undercutting them potentially.
Well, for beginning, I thought that everyone was going to pit on that lap because my fuel said 0.9 coming out of the chase. So I thought everyone was going to pit, and I was like, I might as well just try get Tom beforehand. Turns out they ended up going an extra lap, but Mitchell McLeod came out, and I got a good tow off him to get an extra couple tenths.
Well, either way, that is second at the end for you and a good haul of points besides. Coming into Suzuka, what are your thoughts on that place, Mario?
Well, it should shape up a lot differently to the tracks that we've raced at now, which have had a lot of straights and a lot of towing. So I think the field spread should be a little bit bigger and a little less chaotic, but should be great fun.
Well, thanks very much for joining us, Mario Vartani. And meanwhile, it looks like, Johnny, you've got Tom Katsadonis with you for P3.
Tom, now, first question I want to ask is, during those in-laps, it was a very, very tough battle between you and Mario. Were you expecting him to make the pass on the inside of the chase after he stuck behind you all those laps trying to give you the bump draft?
No, I definitely didn't expect it. And I think that was something that I was guilty of a couple times throughout the race, where I sort of lost focus or lost awareness of what was happening. What Mario did, overtaking me on his in-lap, was really clever of him, because it kind of frazzled me mentally for the next lap, and I made a mistake into the cutting on my in-lap, which cost me like half a second, 7 tenths, which kind of ruined my shot at fighting for P2. Maybe the win, but probably not the win, but at least fighting for P2. So yeah, I mean, it was very clever of Mario, and it definitely did catch me off guard.
Yeah, we did notice that you lost a couple of seconds on that in-lap, but we weren't sure where to identify it. So the cutting, which is one of the most difficult corners out there. But for you, though, you were 10th coming into pre-qualifiers. You had a podium last week, podium this week. Is this what you expected out of this series, or are you overachieving right now in a good way, I mean?
You know, I definitely... in my head, didn't expect to be as competitive, but I mean, as like a racer, like deep down, you always, you know, kind of have a bit of that extra self-belief, but in a way you kind of tell yourself like, nah, don't be silly, don't really actually believe that. But I mean, straight after qualifying at Phillip Island, I kind of said to myself, oh, I'm in this, and I actually can do this and can compete with these guys. So yeah, I'm happy.
Now, we know you love your sashimi, so about that one, what's the post-race meal going to be to celebrate the podium? Bit of sushi?
Yeah, it might be the sushi train just near my place. Might reward myself with a bit of that, but I'm a bit sick right now, so maybe raw fish isn't so great for the immune system. I'm not sure.
No, definitely. We know Bo Albert, Stephen Bull, they weren't able to race. I was concerned when Bo pulled out an hour before that you were going to pull out, but well done, mate. That's a brilliant effort to score a podium for this one. Suzuka next week, Reese Gardner. That is going to be a fun race. We'll say so long to Tom for this one. Looking good for the championship is Tom Reese. Suzuka next week, though, that is a race for attrition. We thought the mountain was hard. Boy, Suzuka, there aren't many places to run off there.
Absolutely. There's not many places to have a rest either. It's just corner after corner all the way through, particularly in the first sector. Of course, Suzuka is known for being a Formula One circuit, longtime host of the Japanese Grand Prix, and you'll definitely see these open wheel cars strutting their stuff around there very well. You'll be able to catch that next Monday at 6:45 p.m. Australian Eastern. I'm certainly looking forward to it.
Yep, that will be on the Motorsport Australia website or via SimSpeed TV and the digital channels and on YouTube as well. Monday, the 15th of August, that's when these powerful Formula 3 machines return for that final round of Motorsport Australia's 2022 iRacing Asia Pacific single-seater eSports Qualifier Series. What a race it was from the mountain today. Hope you enjoyed it. I certainly love that one. I haven't really seen many races of open-wheelers around Bathurst, and it was, wow, I've got to say, loved it today, and I hope to see more of this in the future too. From myself, Jonathan Simon, Reese Gardner alongside me, Jay Kennedy behind the scenes, and our entire team at SimSpeed TV and Motorsport Australia, we say so long for round number 2, and we'll see you in 7 days' time.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?